Hey, I'm Becca.
And I'm Arch.
Welcome to The Ridge. We are so glad that you joined us today as we continue our series called Take Time. Pastor Tim is back, and he's going to be talking about connecting with those in our lives. We can't wait to sing with our Ridge worship band. It's going to be such a great Sunday. But before we get started, we are here to let you know about some things that are happening around the Ridge.
That's right, and one of the main things we have happening right now is our kindness campaign. It's week 2 of our kindness campaign, and we are running all the way through November 27th. And here's the thing, here's the whole deal with the kindness campaign. Our desire, our heart is to greatly impact our community, our state, and our world for Jesus. And we have 3 ways to be coming together to do that as a church. First, you can serve a neighbor, just be kind to somebody in your neighborhood, bake cookies, do something like that, rake some leaves. You could donate a coat, and lastly, you can financially support our partner church in La Ceiba, Honduras. We've got bins in the lobbies where you can drop off your new or gently used winter gear. That's all that stuff behind us. You can go ahead and do that, and you can bring that to the church through November 27th, that last day, or you can purchase stuff, the winter gear, from our Amazon wish list and have it sent directly to the Ridge. Super convenient. You can't beat that. Amazon, always shopping on there. But here's the deal, you can find out all those details, anything else you need to know about the kindness campaign, how you can get involved and make a difference at theridge.church/kindness.
For sure. If you are new here with us and looking to take a next step, or you want to know more about who we are as a church, we have a Welcome to the Ridge webpage that holds all the answers. You can find short videos of our senior pastor, Tim Herring, where he discusses our history, beliefs, vision, strategy, and you can find ways to get involved at the Ridge. Just head to theridge.church/welcome. For those that are in the room, we have a place in the lobby called Next Steps. If you're looking to take a step towards serving, groups, baptism, or you just have a question, we'd love to talk to you and answer any of those questions that you may have.
We'd like to take a moment today to just thank all of our veterans for your service, your bravery, and your sacrifice to protect our country and our freedom. We'd love to honor you just with a small token of our appreciation. So we have a bag of coffee for you in the lobby. Be sure to stop by Next Steps and grab it on your way out. If you're watching or listening online as well, we'd love to offer you some coffee. So you can go to theridge.church/veterans to sign up and receive yours.
So I can't believe we're already talking about this, and it's going to be the holiday season, but we are so excited to be offering you an Advent devotional this Christmas season. It'll focus on faith, hope, joy, and peace. Our hope is that the devotional will help you slow down in the busy holiday season and fall more deeply in love with Jesus. The devotional will be available in book form here at the Ridge later this month.
That's right. It's cool because it's got contributions from a bunch of people on staff. We're super excited for you guys to read through it this season. Also, make sure you stay updated to everything that's going on here on the Ridge. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, subscribe to our weekly email. Thank you so much for being with us this morning, and we hope you have a great service.
Bye, guys.
Good morning and welcome to the Ridge. We're happy you're here. We invite you to stand along and sing with us today. You make a way when I cannot see. You are my strength. Though my heart is weak, you won't let go. You take my place on this battlefield. You go before. You're my sword, my shield. I'm not alone. You fight for me. You always have my victory. It's in your hands, the God of heaven though armies will rise, I will not fear, for you are on my side. No, I will not fear, though armies will rise, I will not fear, for you are on my side. You fight for me, you always have my victory. It's in your hands, the God of heaven is my defense. Whoa, you fight for me, you always have my victory. It's in your hands, the God of heaven is my defense. The God of heaven is my I come to the Father with nothing to offer but my sin. You see it all, you see it all. I come to the altar, I've come to the end of my own way. I wanna know you, just wanna know you. Awake my soul, surrender. Awake my soul to sing. No more empty hallelujahs. Let it be real, God, I'm ready. I come to the Father, all my inhibitions at your feet. I come like a child, I come like a child. Oh, I fall on the altar, my life a sacrifice of praise. Rising up to bless your name. Awake my soul, surrender. Awake my soul to sing. No more to be real. God, I'm ready.
You took these bones, these lifeless bones, and with one breath I came alive. When I was blind, you healed these eyes. What once was dark, you turned to light. So with my life, I glorify. I'm bowing down, I surrender now. My eyes have seen the King of Glory, the Holy One, the risen Son. My eyes have seen the King of Glory. No other name will steal my praise. With every breath, let it rise. So with my life, I glorify. I'm bowing down, I surrender now. My eyes have seen the King of Glory, the Holy One, the risen Son. My eyes have seen the King of Glory. My eyes have seen the King of Glory. To the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, the God who reigns forevermore, we cry, holy, holy is the Lord Almighty. To the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, the God who reigns forevermore, we cry, holy, holy is the Lord Almighty. I'm bowing down, surrender now. My eyes have seen the King of Glory, the Holy One, the risen Son. My eyes have seen the King of Glory. My eyes have seen the King of Glory. My eyes have seen the King of Glory.
God, that's why we're here today, to focus our eyes on you. Some of us have come in today distracted, maybe see things a little blurry. We're just dealing with a lot of doubt and fear and uncertainty, whether that's in the world or in our personal lives. Uncertain of our future, uncertain of what tomorrow's going to bring. But all that fear and doubt and uncertainty that we experience, there's nothing we can do about it. But you can. You see it all. You are in control. So today we just fix our eyes on you and trust. That's what it's all about, just trusting in you today, God. We give you praise. In your name, amen. And it's good to just be together, to sing these songs and to worship So welcome, everyone. Once you have a seat, as you're doing that, can you just say hi to someone? Just wave hello. You don't have to do anything crazy. Just wave hi. If no one's around you, you can wave at me. Yeah, isn't that nice? We want to be a welcoming church here at the Ridge, and what better way than actually saying hi to each other? It's a crazy thing. But we're glad that you're with us. My name's Adam. We're in a series called Take Time, and Pastor Tim is back today, and he's going to talk about taking that time to reconnect with each other, to live life with each other. The pandemic separated us, but we're back to a place where it's time to reconnect, and so we're excited for what he has in store here in just a little bit. Well, I woke up this morning and I saw it, guys. I think we all did. Snow flurries. So some of you are clapping. I know. Some of you are snow people. I'm not. I'm more of a warm weather guy. 2 days ago, it was like 70. Now it's not. I think we're moving on. I think winter is upon us, guys, and we're 2 weeks away from Thanksgiving. Some of you have forgotten that as well. I see Facebook posts of all the Christmas trees. Listen, I don't want to tell you how to live your life. No, I'm just kidding. But I think, we should have Thanksgiving trees, right? You can hang turkey ornaments. Eric, you brought up the kid, the five-finger turkey art thing that they bring home that you eventually throw away. Let's be honest. It's not the most beautiful art. You've got them all? Wow, that's impressive. Anyways, turkey trees. That's all I'm saying, guys. I'm trademarking it. You can't steal it, okay? But we're excited for Thanksgiving coming up in a couple weeks. And we're also excited because November is just Kindness Campaign Month for us here at the Ridge. It's an opportunity for our church to show generosity and kindness to those around us in our community, state, and world. Whether it's serving people in our lives, maybe it's friends, family, neighbors, just thinking of others in that way, or giving to our sister church in La Ceiba, Honduras, and everything that they're doing there. And you can find more information on that by going to theridge.church/kindness. But we also have our coat drive happening throughout this whole month of November. And if you're in the room and you walked in, you saw the rack of coats and people hanging them. It's so cool to just see that thing getting filled throughout the month, because we know those coats are going to someone who just is in desperate need of them. And that small act is going to make such a massive impact in people's lives. And last year we heard a number of stories of families who were just greatly impacted and appreciative of such a small gesture. So if you haven't donated any winter gear, I encourage you, go through your house, look through all the closets. I did that recently. I found a coat in the guest room closet. I didn't know it was there. It's crazy. But a new, gently used coat or winter gear, find it, bring it in, and that small gesture is going to make such a massive impact. We also have our Amazon wish list as well. You can go online, order them. They'll be delivered here as well. So it doesn't matter where you are a part of this campaign and showing generosity and kindness. So we have to the 27th, so let's finish that strong. Friday was Veterans Day, and we just want to take a moment right now and just show appreciation and thanks to all of our veterans. So watch this.
This nation has always been defined by a dream. A dream to achieve and live beyond the fold. Innovation, creativity, and freedom are hallmarks of this American dream. But this dream comes with a cost. And it's not preserved without self-sacrifice. The men and women who serve our country are not just soldiers. They are defenders of freedom. They are protectors of our rights to pursue happiness. We use words like honor, courage, and bravery to describe our veterans. They have taken turns standing guard over the dream that makes America so special. The freedom to live, love, and worship God is possible because of our veterans. This is what makes America so special and what makes our veterans heroes.
Yeah, if you are a veteran in the room right now, could you stand? Could you stand? Let's just keep clapping for them. We're so appreciative of you for sacrificing. I mean, the ultimate act of thinking of others is sacrificing your life for their freedoms. And so we thank you so much. And we just have a small gift for you as you leave. In the lobby, we have bags of coffee. It's such a small gesture, but we just want to say thank you. So make sure you grab that as you leave today. Well, before Tim comes up and continues our series, Take Time, we just want to take some time right now to worship through our giving, and you're going to see ways that you can do that on the screen. Those of you in the room, we have giving boxes as you leave today as well. Just take a moment and give back to God, give out of obedience to Him. So let's do that.
Well, good morning. I think most people have the impression that because I'm a pastor and that I really do enjoy people, that I must be an extrovert. But the truth of the matter is I think I'm much more of an introvert than an extrovert, although my wife and I have debated about that question. I truly do find people fascinating. When I talk with people and I hear your stories and I learn things, I find it fascinating. Also, sometimes I love to be the life of the party. But also, there are so many times I just prefer to be like alone at my cabin, that I find that I'm worn out when I'm involved with crowds and conversations. Kind of, if you're a pastor, being worn out by crowds is probably not a good thing. But I think most of you can relate to this. Some of you are extroverted and you love being with people. You get energized by that. I think most people probably are not. I think most people are just a little bit more timid when it comes to relationships and that kind of thing. I think all of us, though, can relate to the fact that there are occasions where we're stressed by conversations or relationships with others, or we get a certain amount of anxiety when we anticipate a social situation that's coming up. I think we can all relate to that sometimes it is a little bit of a challenging interacting with other people. Today we're going to continue our series here, Take Time, and one of the situations related to the pandemic was that I believe that there's been a high social cost involved with it, where it has caused us to have barriers between us and other people and just a distance that's taken place to the point where some scientists are even saying that people are forgetting how to interact with one another. My takeaway today is take time to reconnect with other people. Now, all of you kind of have experienced this barrier or the distance that I'm describing here. Kind of started with them putting little circles on the ground and you were supposed to stand 6 feet from the person next to you, that kind of thing. Supposedly that's the distance that a sneeze droplet will fly. And it made sense to distance in that way, And then social distancing, though, took on, I think, a much harder cost on other people. I mean, in some cases, it was really, really devastating, I think. If you happen to be somebody that was admitted to a hospital during that time or someone that was at a nursing home, it was really, I think, a very, very hard time, a very sad time. All of us probably saw pictures of people that were on either side of some glass. And you saw an elderly person sitting in a wheelchair with her hand or his hand on the glass, and the family members were on the other side, and they put their hand there, and tears were flowing because they could see their loved one, but they could not hug the person. And it was really difficult. And there was a cost involved with that. Obviously limiting visitors was important. But according to the Cambridge University Press, there's a high cost associated with the essential quarantine and social distancing interventions for COVID-19, especially in older adults who have experienced an acute, severe sense of social isolation and loneliness with potentially serious mental and physical health consequences. Most people would admit now that in some cases, distancing ourselves was every bit as deadly as the virus itself. It was a painful thing for so many. And the social cost was reflected in other ways as well. For example, you just think of wearing the masks. And we still now wear masks under certain circumstances, which again, I think is a good thing. But if you're wearing a mask, you cannot read the person's expressions. They say, again, that communication is much more than just words. It's being able to read a person's face, but if you can't see the lower part of the face, I remember several Sundays I was up here speaking and I would say something that I thought was maybe funny, but I couldn't tell if you were smiling. All I saw was the masks. Sometimes you can read it in the eyes, but not always, but there's a distance there, a lack of connection. But I think one of the biggest things had to do with the technology. I've appreciated Zoom. I use it every week. FaceTime, WhatsApp, I'm using all of those during some occasions here. And as much as they've connected us together, they've also kind of served to divide us. And so after a 1-hour meeting on Zoom, for example, you may have had this connection with a person for an hour, but you never really connected with the person. And it has become hard in some cases for people to even enjoy the idea of going out and actually talking to people face to face. Some scientists have said we have to relearn that. We have to relearn how to talk to each other, how to interact face to face. And so obviously you all, if you're in the room, are able to do that face to face here. But it's a little bit harder if we're not, if we're separated from one another by technology, which is a great and wonderful thing. Now, this series, we've titled it Take Time, and the first week of the series, we talked about taking time to see things differently. And I looked at the Sermon on the Mount and the Beatitudes and how, as Christians, we're part of the kingdom of heaven and that we can and should view things differently than other people. There's just a way we as Christians see things that's different. You know, blessed are those who mourn because we know that we will be comforted. And all the other things in that beatitude list. And then we talked about taking time to stop, rest, and delight and worship. Arch talked about this last week. One of the positive aspects of this pandemic is that it did slow us down. I did love the fact I didn't have to come into the office. I loved the fact I could be home and to be separated, whatever. But all of us, I think, felt a little bit of the fact that it's kind of nice not to be quite as busy as we were. And it's important for us to now remember that, now that we're kind of, at least it seems like, on the other side of this for at least the time being. And so Arch talked about this idea of a Sabbath. I realize we're not under the Old Testament law, and so we don't have to abide by all the Sabbath rules or whatever, but this principle of setting aside a day where you cease from working. God even did that at the end of creation. It says he rested on the seventh day. It was pre-law. And I think it's vital for our health, so let's not forget that, which is what this series is about. Let's not forget some of the lessons we learned along the way. But today I want to talk about taking time to reconnect with other people. Now, why this one is so important is that God has created us to be social beings. God himself lives in eternal community as Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. And when he created us to be social beings. He created us to interact with other people, to need relationships. We discovered that this was the very reason that God created Eve in the first place as a companion for Adam in Genesis 2:18. We read, "Then the Lord God said, 'It's not good for the man to be alone. I will make a helper as his complement.'" It's not good to be alone. Now, this verse is not implying that everyone needs to get married to be fulfilled, but it is suggesting that it's not good to be alone. For any of us, it's just not good to be ones who are alone. And of course, we know that. Think of all the blessings that have been associated with your relationships with other people. Think of some of the meaningful interactions you've had over the years. Think of how others have helped you over the years and just the difference that people have made in your life. None of us would even be here if it weren't for other people. But it's been easier to disconnect from other people. Today I want to look at what Solomon had to say about this. Solomon was one of the wisest guys who ever lived, and obviously he wrote a number of books. If he were alive today and were an author, I would read literally every book the guy would write, though. He was endowed with some wisdom that came from God, supernatural insight and wisdom, and he addressed this subject of not being alone, the importance of not being by ourselves. The passage is found in Ecclesiastes 4, 7 through 12, and that's where I want to spend our time here today. We're going to begin in verses 7 and 8, where Solomon said, "Again, I saw futility under heaven." Let me stop for a moment, but the entire book of Ecclesiastes is about looking at life and seeing futility. Some versions translate it vanity, vanity, kind of a hopelessness. I view it as kind of a senselessness that he observed as he looked at the world. He ends up concluding, by the way, that we need to look beyond it. Fear God, because that's the thing that's going to endure forever. But he starts by saying, "Again, I saw futility under heaven. There is a person, or was a person," I'm thinking he's observing this person. "There's a person without a companion, without even a son or brother, and though there's no end to all his struggles, his eyes are still not content with riches. So who am I struggling for," he asks, "and depriving myself from good? This too is futile and a miserable task." Now let me stop for a moment, and Solomon is obviously here describing a person that he says is kind of miserable. And Solomon sets the context. If you read these verses plus the ones that come right before it, there are two things you discover about the guy that he's describing here. First of all, the guy worked all the time. He worked and he worked and he worked. He labored. He's evaluating all this about all the labor that he has to do. And then the second thing is he's observing that he doesn't have someone in his life to share it with. And he's wealthy. All the wealth that he's gained, he doesn't have people in his life that he can enjoy it with. And so he's got a certain amount of happiness or unhappiness in his life. What he's concluding is that, I work, and I don't enjoy life at all. Which is what it's like sometimes. Sometimes our schedules in our modern culture are like that. You work. But this guy concluded, why? Why on earth would I give myself to all of this effort not to be able to enjoy it, not to be able to have life afterwards? I mean, you think, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give my whole life to earning wealth. And then you get to the end of it and you find out, every day it's like, well, I worked all day, didn't enjoy this one, and your whole life is like that. And you say, why? What was it about? And that's what he was concluding. The context indicates he was likely rich or wealthy, but he couldn't enjoy any of it. But the second thing is he didn't have anyone, again, to share it with. He was alone. It says he didn't have a son. He didn't have any brothers to hang out with. He didn't have any companions. And so he deeply felt the futility of it all. Why am I doing all this? I can't enjoy it myself because I'm so busy working, and I can't give it to anyone else. No one else can enjoy it with me. And so why? And you can see why he'd arrive at the conclusion it's futile. Then Solomon gets to the answer. He says, the key is here is a companion, having a companion in your life. So continuing in verse 9. He says, 2 are better than 1 because they have a good return, a reward for their efforts. Some of your versions say return, some say reward. 2 are better than 1 because you get a good reward for their efforts. For if either falls, his companion can lift him up, but pity the one who falls without another to lift him up. Also, if 2 lie down together, they can keep warm, but how can one person alone keep warm? And if someone overpowers one person, 2 can resist him. A cord of 3 strands is not easily broken. I think he's saying 3 is even better than 2. Now, Solomon began by making what I would call a summary statement or his thesis. He's just described the condition of this guy that's working like crazy but doesn't enjoy his life, doesn't have anyone to enjoy his life with. And then he makes this statement in verse 9. 2 are better than 1 because they have a good reward for their efforts. Now, what does he mean by this reward? What does he mean by this return? Well, I think what he's saying here is that 2 are better than 1 because 1 plus 1 is more than 2. I think that's what he's talking about here. That there's a greater return, a better return when you're with another person here. This is called synergy. Dictionary.com defines synergy as this. Synergy is the interaction of elements that when combined produce a total effect that is greater than the sum of the individual elements, contributions, etc. You bring a couple things together, the outcome is more than what each of them would have accomplished by themselves. And so you end up with this greater return, which is what I think Solomon is getting at. And so every one of us here has certain gifts and abilities. You have strengths. You have a certain knowledge base. You've had experiences. Other people are different. Other people have different gifts and abilities and strengths and experiences and a different knowledge level. And when you put them together, you end up with a better solution many times. Businesses recognize this. Bring together these people from different backgrounds. When you pull them together, you end up with a greater result. So two are better than one because they get a better reward for their effort. And this is, by the way, the beauty of the church. Because God gave the church the gifts. Jesus, it says, gave each person, if you know Christ, a different spiritual gift. And so we can be in our own little place, what they call these days your own silo. You can be in your own little place here using your gift, or else we can come together, use our gifts, and accomplish much more. Now he said two are better than one, you get a better reward. That's his thesis. And then he goes on to verse 10. And he uses the word for. The very next word is for. He's about to explain why this is the case. He presented his thesis. Now he wants to explain 3 reasons why it's better to be with another person. Let's look at verse 10 again. And it says, for, and here's his first point, if either falls, his companion can lift him up, but pity the one who falls without another to lift him. Also, here's his second point. If two lie down together, they can keep warm, but how can one person alone keep warm? And, here's his third point, if someone overpowers one person, two can resist him. A cord of 3 strands is not easily broken. And so he supports his thesis here. 2 are better than 1. Why? Well, the first reason he gives is that we all need help at times. That's his first point. We all need help at times. Verse 10, for if either falls, his companion can lift him up, but pity the one who falls without another to lift him up. Now, the implication here is if you fall and you're injured, it's not like if you fall, you can get back up. So the implication is if you fall and you're alone and you get injured, you know, I envision someone climbing some rocks or something and they slip and fall down and break their leg. You have no one with you. You're in big trouble. Every time I read this verse, by the way, I think of that company Life Alert. They show this old elderly. And that's a description that's going to be me soon, perhaps. They see this elderly person lying on the ground, but they got this Life Alert necklace around their neck, and they say, help, I've fallen and I can't get up. They've tapped into something that's a legitimate problem. We all need help at times. The problem in our culture is that we value, in America, we value so much independence. And we value being the ones who offer help to others, but we don't like to receive help. I mean, can you relate to that? When I'm the one that needs help, I'm kind of embarrassed. Like it feels like I'm weak and I don't want to admit I need help. And so I want to put on a strong face here so that you won't think I need help because I'm one of the ones that gives help. I'm not the one. We all need help at times. When I was thinking about this, I was thinking of one of the rules of scuba diving, that you always have someone with you. You never scuba dive alone. I mean, the number 1 rule is don't hold your breath, ever. While you're under the water. But the second rule is you never go alone, never go alone. I have to admit I've been tempted to go alone. You know, when we go up to Michigan, I understand there are hundreds of shipwrecks in Lake Michigan, and they haven't been found. I just want to go with my tank, and I just want to go out there and look and find this. I want to be the one to discover it. It seems so exciting. I will never do it. I will never do it. And part of it's what I've experienced in the past. Some of you heard me talk about Rick Thomason, who went scuba diving with me and a group of us some time ago. And he was coming up to the surface after being about 60 feet below the surface. We were in Mexico, Cozumel, and he was about 10 feet from the surface of the water, and he stopped because it was the end of the dive, and he had to decompress, so everything seemed normal, but it wasn't normal. His sister was his dive buddy. Everyone has a dive buddy. His sister was the dive buddy, but also the expert came along, the dive master, a guy named Oscar, and both of them swam up to Rick, and he was completely passed out, just suspended in the water, just hanging there, 10 feet from the top of the surface. With some difficulty, they dragged him out of the water and onto the boat. I was already on the boat at the time. I tend to be inefficient with my breathing with that tank on. I don't know why, but I get up first many times. I'm done. So I'm in the boat, and all of a sudden I see this happening. There's nothing I can do. They drag him on board. His hands were a deathly bluish color. His face, all his extremities. He did not look alive. It did not seem like he was breathing. And the dive master went over and gave him CPR, and it wasn't working, and continued to give him CPR. It wasn't working. He continued to give him CPR, and finally Rick began to breathe. And I could see the color coming back to his hands, and they gave him 100% oxygen. A boat came along to take him to shore as an emergency, and they had a vehicle ready to take him to a dive clinic that specializes in these kind of situations. There's no question in my mind that had he not had people with him, he would have died right there. There's no doubt about it. He came up out of the water. When he was able to breathe, he was splitting up blood. We need other people in our lives. Two are better than one, because if one falls and you're all by yourself, you're not in a very good place to be. The question is, are we humble enough to acknowledge our need? And I know in my pride, again, sometimes I could be self-sufficient. I don't want to be the needy one. I want to be the one that proves that I can meet the need. But we all are needy. And other people can help us with this. And here's the issue. If we haven't developed relationships with other people, when we are in need, we're in trouble. That's why I'm saying ahead of time, take time to reconnect with others. So that when this happens, when you are in need, there'll be people in your life. And the church can be that for you, by the way. But there's a second reason, besides needing help, that Solomon said that two are better than one, and that is we all need care and comfort. Let me read Ecclesiastes 4:11 again. Also, he writes, if two lie down together, they can keep warm, but how can one person alone keep warm? Now, this looks like it's a simple illustration of somebody that's cold and needs someone to, cuddle with and get warm with. But that's really not all it's talking about here. I believe it's talking about more than that. It's talking about both physical and emotional care and comfort. It's really talking about, in a sense, companionship. Dr. D.A. Garrett writes about this. The warmth of lying beside each other is an image derived from that of travelers who must lie beside each other to stay warm on cold desert nights. But the usage here is metaphorical for emotional comfort against the coldness of the world. I think he's exactly right. The usage here, it's a real situation, of course, but it's metaphorical of emotional comfort against the coldness of this world. All of us need care at times. We need comfort at times. We need this companionship at times. The Talmud, which is a collection of scholarly Jewish writings, says, if a man without a companion is like a left hand without the right. And I think that's exactly true. And we need this. We need this care. We need this comfort. We need companionship. I think companionship actually captures the idea the best. As I was thinking about this, I was thinking of a trip I took to Seattle several years ago to take a course. I was going to be there maybe 5 days or whatever, but 1 or 2 of the days we had some time off. I jumped in the car and I went to the Space Needle in Seattle there. And they had what was called the Food of Seattle going at the time, or the Taste of Seattle it was called. So all these restaurants and everything had, food that they were doing. I had like salmon jerky, and Starbucks was there because they came out of Seattle, and they were giving free coffee and stuff. It was just wonderful. And then I went to Pike Place Market. It's a fish market. Some of you Who's been to Pike's Place or Pike Place? It's not just a fish market, although it's fascinating as a fish market because they take these like 30-pound, 40-pound fish and throw them to one another and wrap them. It's fun to just watch them in action. But the thing that caught my attention was the flowers of all things. I don't care about flowers, but these flowers. They're the most beautiful flowers. They were of colors I didn't know existed in nature. Here's a picture that someone took. I got this online, but this was taken from Pike Place, from the flowers that they sell there. Remarkable. While I was there, I felt all of a sudden, I think it was the flowers, when I saw the flowers, I felt a profound sadness come over me. I realized the thought came to me, I want to bring some home back to my wife. But she wasn't there with me, and I realized the flowers wouldn't make it. And all of a sudden, it just hit me. I'm enjoying these things, this experience and that experience and all of this, and I'm alone. And I was close to tears the whole time I was there because I was on a journey, but I had no companion. I had no one there with me. This is something, again, I think we need to seek out in our lives if we don't have a companion in our life. And as I was reflecting on that story, and I was thinking this past week that I've entered the month of the 3rd anniversary of when my appendix died. I don't know how to even describe that, but what it's called, but it turned gangrene, and then my organs glued together, and my system started working, and I was dying. And I think of this woman that was by me for 9 days, almost solid. She wasn't there to protect me, although that's part of it these days. It's nice to have someone there that tells the nurse, hey, he already had that, or whatever, or to fight on our behalf, especially if you're in a great deal of pain. That was helpful, but it was more about care. It was more about concern. And we need this. And again, this is part of what I think a church is about. It's a family that maybe you never had, or it's a family that's close by maybe, if the rest of your family is far away. Here at the church, we have a thing called a care team where we'll do hospital visitation if we know that you're having a surgery that's significant or whatever, and you call us, because everybody needs care. Everyone needs comfort. But even our care team, I think when they ask, I don't know if they ask this every time, but often they'll ask those who are going through a situation, are you part of a group? And if the answer is yes, there's really a sigh of relief on their part because they realize that this is somebody that's going to have people that are going to be very involved in caring for them. It's what we all need. We all need care at times. And so again, Ecclesiastes 2:11, two lie down together, they can keep warm. Again, I think it's more about comfort. But how can one person alone keep warm? And so again, my takeaway, take time to reconnect. We all need help at times. We all need care and comfort. The last point I want to make about this is that we all need protection at times. Sometimes we need to be protected from some danger that comes our way. Look at verse 12 again. And if someone overpowers one person, 2 can resist him. A cord of 3 strands is not easily broken. Now, this protection that we need from harm can come in a variety of forms. Like, I'm not sure why, but when I first read this verse and I thought of danger, actually the thought that came to my mind are, again, elderly people who are taken advantage by people financially. There are not many things in life that make me angrier than that. That somebody that would rob an elderly person of their what they have stored away for the rest of their life. People that go in and take advantage of someone. But there's a real danger there. We need to have people sometimes to help us with things like our finances. And we're in danger in a lot of different ways. Sometimes, though, we are in danger physically as well. Recently, I read this story about a couple guys that were attacked by a grizzly bear. Maybe you read it. I think it happened just 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago. Their names, the 2 guys were Kendall Cummings and Brady Lowry. Both were sophomore wrestlers at Northwest College in Powell, Wyoming. And these 2 guys went up to collect antlers on this mountain in the Shoshone National Forest. And they went with a couple of other from the wrestling team. And so they're up there looking for antlers. I didn't know that was a thing. I guess it is. But at a certain point, they divided. And so these two guys went up higher. And as soon as they got up higher, these guys from the wrestling team noticed some marks on the ground, some footprints and some feces that they thought, that looks like it's from a bear. And as soon as they realized that, all of a sudden a bear came running at them. Lowry, who was the guy on the right previously, he said, before you could even think or blink, there's a bear that came running out of the trees right in front of me. He was attacked first. He describes it. It started chomping on me pretty good. It got hold of my left arm. It was shaking me around, broke my left arm. Now, seeing his friend in danger, Cummings tried to get the bear's attention. He made initially a bunch of noise. Then he was throwing things at the bear. None of it was working. So he described what happened next. I jumped down and grabbed the bear and yanked it off of Lowry. Now, that's a story you'll tell the rest of your life. And at that point, the bear went after him, began to attack him. He says, it tackled me, chewed me up a bit. It then wandered off for a minute, and then it returned. I don't mean a minute, but just for briefly, it walked away for a second, and then came back. It attacked him some more. This time, it bit him in the head and the cheek. Here's a picture of the two guys in the hospital. Again, Cummings is the one that's on the right. He's the one who intervened on his friend's behalf. Notice he's the one that's in bad shape because he came to help his friend here. Now, at some point, the bear just apparently lost interest, walked away. They were able to call 911 somehow, and then the other wrestlers joined them, and the other wrestlers, they took turns carrying Cummings down the mountain. It was a mile or so, carrying him down the mountain, eventually made it to the hospital. When all was said and done, in addition to the obvious wounds that he had suffered, he had a broken arm. He required 6 screws and bolts. He had been bitten also in the right thigh. Cummings had. All this had happened to him. Both are expected to make a full recovery. But Lowry told the Cowboy Daily Press regarding Cummings' intervention and perhaps saving his life. He said, I don't know how I'm going to pay him back. I don't. I owe him everything. We'll be best friends for the rest of our lives. Now, we all need people in our lives when we're in danger. Sometimes it's even emotional danger. Sometimes it's danger in the city. Sometimes it's danger in the home. Sometimes it's even spiritual danger where people are being led astray to believe things that are not true. We're going to be assaulted in different ways. It reminds me of my own mugging. And we need other people in our lives to help us when we're in danger. So the takeaway again, I want to encourage you to take time to reconnect with others, especially if you've really backed away from this, to say, this is a very, very important thing. Why? Excuse me, because we all need help at times, every one of us. We all need care, we all need comfort and companionship, and we all need protection at times. Now, some of you might be thinking, I'm too busy to develop relationships. I think you're too busy not to, really. That we need other people in our lives. The writer of Hebrews said, don't forsake your own assembling together, as some are in the habit of doing, but encourage one another, and all the more as you see the day drawing near. As we get nearer to the return of Christ, we're going to see more and more how much we need other people. Now, normally at this point in this particular kind of talk, I'd say, so join a community group or join a ministry or whatever, but this is the time of year when things are kind of winding down as we get near the holidays and whatever. So in January, we're going to be announcing new groups that are going to be starting, community groups, but also care groups. We have particular groups that are just designed to help provide care in particular areas of things you may be facing. Look out for that. I encourage you to take advantage of that. Get involved in community. In addition to that, I think you could get involved in serving in various ways, because a lot of relationships are formed around activities. And so as you get involved in an activity with someone else, you develop a relationship with that. And that's maybe something that you can do. Perhaps you can participate in this kindness campaign, one of the aspects is serving a neighbor, but also giving and helping out in other ways. I just encourage you, though, to get connected because it really does make the difference in our lives. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, I thank you that you've created us to need people because life would be just so lonely, so different, so helpless without others in our lives. But I ask you, Lord, to help us to understand the value of this and to take the steps that we need to take to get better connected with other people so that not only can they make a difference in our lives, but we can make a difference in theirs. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
We invite you to stand and sing again. Come together, strangers, neighbors, our blood is one. Children of generations, of every nation, of kingdom come. Don't let your heart be troubled. Hold your head up high, don't fear no evil. Fix your eyes on this one truth. God is madly in love with you. So take courage, hold on, be strong. Remember where our help comes from. Let's sing this out today. Swing wide. Swing wide, all you heavens. Let the praise go up as the walls come down. All creation, everything with breath, repeat the sound. All his children, clean hands, pure hearts, good grace, good God. His name is Jesus. Swing wide, all you heavens, let the praise go up as the walls come down. All creation, everything with breath, repeat the sound. All his children, clean hands, pure hearts, good grace, good God. His name is Jesus. kingdom come.
Man, I love that first line that says, people come together, strangers, neighbors, our blood is one. We're created to live life with each other, so I encourage all of us to find that time to reconnect with each other. Thank you guys so much for being with us today. If you want to find ways to connect with each other through the Ridge, we encourage you to head to Next Steps in the lobby. Also go to theridge.church/new. We'd love to help you find those connections. Also, veterans, don't forget to grab your coffee on your way out. Middle and high schoolers in the gym right now, dodgeball and donuts. Go throw donuts at each other. Have a great week. We'll see you. Bye.